When the war cry of freedom first rang through the land, they looked for a hero to take command. Then there came from Virginia a hero of fame. All hail to his glory, all hail to his name.
All hail to George Washington, leader of men. Columbia's favorite son, President #1. Hail to this leader of men.
In 1775, he spoke to his army and said he would strive to lead them to victory when all was done. And then by the year 1781,
Cornwallis, the Englishman, had to admit that he was defeated, and so he retreated, and England retired and quit.
February 22nd, on one early morn, in 1732 he was born. And because he was brave and he showed us the way, they call him the father of our USA.
George Washington was both so great and so fine, and in 1789 all the people decided that he was so grand that they made him first president of the land. All hail to George Washington, leader of men, Columbia's favorite son, President #1. Hail to this leader of men.
In the state of Massachusetts, a patriot was born in 1735 on a cold October morn. This man was called John Adams, a hero brave and true, and the people all selected him as President #2. As a lawyer and a patriot, he was brave beyond compare. He opposed the English stamp tax, he said it wasn't fair. And for the Revolution, he worked with all his might. He helped to write the peace pact that ended the fight.
Mr. John Adams on freedom was bent. Remember John Adams, our second president.
Along with Thomas Jefferson, he labored day and night on a very famous document they both helped to write. It brought the throne of England away across the seas. They declared the independence of the American colonies.
When Washington was made the first leader of the land, Adams was vice president and second in command. In 1797, without further ado, the people all selected him as President #2.
Mr. John Adams on freedom was bent. Remember John Adams, our second president.
A scholar and a scientist, a student of the law. Yes, that was Thomas Jefferson, a hero of the war. And when his country called to him, he was a volunteer. He wrote the famous Bill of Rights Americans hold dear. I'm sure you'll all agree, it's very plain to see why people chose Thomas Jefferson as President #3. Along with General Washington, he fought for liberty. He was born in old Virginia in 1743. He served his country with his best, he followed each command. In 1800, he became the president of the land. I'm sure you'll all agree, it's very plain to see why people chose Tom Jefferson as President #3. And in the year of 1803, he helped us to advance by buying Louisiana from the country known as France. I'm sure you'll all agree, it's very plain to see why people chose Tom Jefferson as President #3.
We will sing a song about a man who was called James Madison. He was born in old Virginia in 1751.
In the Continental Congress, he helped to win the war.
When the job was done, James Madison was President #4.
He helped to write our country's laws, that's why he was acclaimed. And the father of our Constitution, Madison, was named.
The people knew that Madison was really very fine. They elected him our president in 1809.
In 1812, the British tried to stop our ships at sea. But President James Madison said, this can never be. And along with Andy Jackson, he won another war.
This
Monroe told all Europe, don't try to meddle with our land. This came to be the Monroe Doctrine, something we all should understand.
Born on the 28th of April, 1758. Fought in the War of Independence, helping to make our country great.
He was a hero, old James Monroe. He was a president number 5. Oh, he stood up bold and he told the world, no one would ever shame us. We would hold our honor and our place, and the world would soon acclaim us. Born in Virginia, state of president, straight for the White House he was bent. It was the year of 1816 when he became our president.
He was a hero, old James Monroe.
He was a president number 5.
Just listen well and we will tell the answer now to you.
He was Quincy Adams, John Quincy Adams, our 6th president, old John Quincy Adams.
Now where was Adams born, and just what was the date? In 1767, in Massachusetts state.
John Quincy was a scholar, his brain was very keen, and he became a diplomat when he was just 15.
Our 6th president, old John Quincy Adams.
John Quincy Adams' father was proud of this young lad, and Washington once called him the smartest man we had.
Our liberty and freedom he helped to keep alive, and he became our president in 1825. Our 6th president, old John Quincy Adams.
Now here's the story of a man who started out at 0. He was the 7th president and really quite a hero. For in the War of 1812, his courage and his manner brought victory at New Orleans down in Louisiana.
He was a soldier,
And a gent,
smart as a crackson.
Andy Jackson.
He was the 7th president.
The people said, this Jackson's tough, no one can bend or shame him. And since he's like a sturdy tree,
Old Hickory is what we'll name him.
although he had a little force, he didn't wish it greater. He said each man was half a horse and half an alligator.
Smart as a crackson.
Andy Jackson.
He was the 7th president. Remember Andy Jackson's name and these facts we've selected. It was in 1829 that Jackson was elected, and also that this man was born in 1767. He died in 1845 and straightway went to heaven. Smart as a crackson, Andy Jackson. He was the 7th president. According to your history book, there's a New York town called Kinderhook,
Where President was born, it's true, in 1782.
who was a smart politician.
Knew how to run the ship of state.
Martin Van Buren, the little magician,
He studied hard, I studied law, and soon he became a senator.
who was a smart politician.
Knew how to run the ship of state.
Martin Van Buren, the little magician.
He was a president number 8.
Martin's work was very great as the governor of New York State. He was Jackson's confidant and served as his vice president.
In 1836, this man became the president of the land.
In politics, he won his fame, and that's the reason for his name.
Martin Van Buren, the little magician. He was president number 8.
William Henry Harrison was a great Virginian. This president was born, you see, in 1773. In 1800, it is true, he fought the Indians as Tippecanoe. For Harrison knew what democracy meant, and he was our 9th president.
William Henry Harrison tried to help the Indian, and he became the Secretary of the Northwestern Territory. He obtained for Congress in 1803 Indian lands in Old Missouri. And in the year of 1804, he was elected our Louisiana governor.
In 1841, William Henry Harrison,
He stepped right up and took command as president of our great land. One short month from inaugural day, President Harrison passed away.
But Harrison knew what democracy meant. He was our 9th president.
In 1790 there was born a leader among men. John Tyler was this hero's name, our president number 10. He went to school and studied hard, his scholarship was fine, and he became a lawyer in the year of 1809.
No wonder that John Tyler was our president number 10.
In 1860, John became a Virginia congressman. In the House of Representatives, he helped our country plan. Virginians loved John Tyler, for he had such pep and drive.
And they made him their governor in 1825. John Tyler was vice president in 1841. When Harrison died, John took his place to finish what he'd begun.
No wonder that John Tyler was our president number 10.
James Polk was his name, and we'll learn he was born
in 1795.
Now James served in Congress for old Tennessee. He served one term as governor, and
Then he ascended the presidency in the year of 1844. Our folk made Polk 11th president.
he prevented a war with England, it's true, when he settled the Oregon fight. He
Then helped the Texans beat old Mexico
because he thought their cause was right. And
So in the year of 1844, they made him the head of the land. James Polk, he was eminent. Our folk made Polk 11th president.
Now Zachary Taylor was just the man to help to win the war. He was born in old Virginia in 1784. There was no problem he put aside or ever tried to show, and that is why they elected him our president number 12.
That Zachary Taylor, a fighting man, was our 12th president.
He entered the army in 1806, he knew just what to do, and soon he fought in the Black Hawk War in 1832. All rough and ready they nicknamed him because he was so tough, and in the fight for freedom Zachary Taylor knew his stuff. And then in the war with Mexico he led the victory. At the Battle of Buena Vista he made all Texas free. The people honored this soldier's fame because he was so fine. They elected him
our president in 1849. It had to be, it was no accident, that Zachary Taylor, a fighting man, was our 12th president.
Millard Fillmore was a country lad who was born in New York State, in the little town of Summerhill. 1800 was the date, but he worked all night and he worked all day, and he became a lawyer that way.
So remember Millard Fillmore's name, a 13th president he became.
As a lawyer up in Buffalo, he acquired such a stature that in 1828 he was sent to the state legislature. Then to Congress he was sent, it's true, in 1832.
A 13th president he became.
In 1850, Zachary Taylor was president of the land, and Fillmore was vice president, and Taylor's helping hand.
When Taylor died, as was the case, Millard Fillmore took his place.
And 1850 was the date when Fillmore took the ship of state.
So remember Millard Fillmore's name, a 13th president he became.
A man named Franklin Pierce was born, and he grew up to be our 14th president. He studied law, and in the year of 1831, he served the Congress of his state. His record there was really great as Speaker in the House of Representatives.
And Franklin Pierce became our 14th president.
In 1837, Pierce became a senator, and then his fame began to climb as youngest senator of his time. He went into the army for the Mexican War. He went into the army back in 1846. Then to brigadier general's rank he rose, and he became our president in 1852.
A lawyer, a soldier, a man of great accomplishment, and Franklin Pierce became our 14th president. Born in 1791 was President James Buchanan. He fought in the War of 1812. For freedom he did plenty. He served 5 terms in Congress from the year of 1820. Just remember James Buchanan, our 15th president.
He served his country faithfully, made sure no one would crush her, and President Andy Jackson made him minister to Russia. When Texas fought for freedom, James Buchanan rallied the nation, and then when Texas won the fight, he sponsored her annexation.
Buchanan served under President Polk as a British delegate, and later on this man became our Secretary of State. There wasn't any problem that Buchanan couldn't fix, and he became our president in 1856.
Tip your hat to James Buchanan and his accomplishment. Just remember James Buchanan, our 15th president.
Yes, here is a song about a man with a heart as big as our whole nation. And he rose from the poverty of a log cabin to the presidency of these United States. And he kept these states united. Now way down in Kentucky, in the year of 1809, on the 12th of February, there was born a man so fine. His heart was full of freedom, and his fame shall ever shine. Abe Lincoln was his name.
From the cabin to the White House, old Abe Lincoln worked his way with the kindliness and humor that the world still loves today. He became the 16th president of our USA. Abe Lincoln was his name.
In the year of 1860, when Lincoln took command, all the southern states were angry and they wanted to disband. But he won the Civil War and banished slavery from the land. Abe Lincoln was his name.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Yes, we won our victory at a great price. On the evening of April 14th, 1865, at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., President Lincoln was assassinated, and the Secretary of State sadly told the world, now he belongs to the ages.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Way Back in the year of 1808, a poor boy was born who grew up to be great. This boy, Andrew Johnson, knew what freedom meant, and in 1865 he became president.
He studied so hard that he won great renown, and soon was elected the mayor of the town. And then by the year of 1853, they made him the governor of Tennessee. The great Civil War had divided the land. He stood beside Lincoln as his helping hand. He fought for our freedom, he knew what it meant. In 1864 he was vice president.
Now, he became president when Lincoln was killed and swore that he'd keep Lincoln's promise fulfilled. There were mean men in Congress who wanted him jailed. They tried to impeach him, but their efforts failed.
In a world filled with hatred, Andrew Johnson was kind. He knew peace was good and that war makes men blind. And his last act in office in 1868 was to pardon war prisoners and so end all hate.
Yes, sirree, Andrew Johnson was clever and keen, and he became our president 17. Now, General Grant was born in 1822, the kind of a man who takes a job and sees it through. He graduated West Point, you see, in 1843. What a fighting man was General Ulysses Grant. And then in the Civil War in 1863, at the Battle of Vicksburg, Grant won a great victory. And President Lincoln said, Grant is grand, I'm putting the army in his command. Go and win the war now, General Ulysses Grant. The general took the job, he knew what must be done. In 1865, that Civil War was won. And in 1868, they gave him command of the ship of state. And our president was General Ulysses Grant. General Grant, Ulysses Grant, became our 18th president.
1822 was the famous date when President Hayes was born in Ohio State. He studied in school, then practiced law, and he served as a major in our Civil War.
He served as a major in our Civil War.
He bravely faced danger while leading the fight. He fought for our Union with courage and might. And when it was ended, to Congress he went to help in the planning of our government.
It was Rutherford Hayes, so benevolent, that he was elected our 19th president. Elected as president in 1876.
Elected as president in 1876, he served just one term according to his plan, then retired to work for the betterment of man.
It was Rutherford Hayes, so benevolent, that he was elected our 19th president. We'll sing you a song about James Abram Garfield, born in the year of 1831.
Last president to be born in a log cabin.
His fame and his glory are second to none. He studied until he became a school teacher and president of a great college as well. Our 20th president, James Garfield.
He was a soldier and scholar, it's true.
Then went into Congress in 1863, elected as senator in 1880, loved and respected for his honesty.
And then in the year of 1881, they made him the president of our great land.
But in July of that very same year,
his life was cut short by a murderer's hand.
20th President James Garfield, he was a soldier and scholar, it's true. Our 20th President James Garfield, a soldier,
A lawyer.
and president too. In the year of 1830, in the state we call Vermont, Chester Allen Arthur first saw light of day. And this boy from old New England really rose to great success as the president of our USA, with a sense of duty and integrity.
And he took his oath of office back in 1881, and our 21st president was he.
When Garfield was the president and leader of the land, Chester Arthur was vice president, you see. And when Garfield was assassinated, Arthur took his place as the guardian of American liberty.
When Arthur was in office, he created great reforms in our civil service and the U.S. mail. And 3 railroads were completed, and they reached from coast to coast.
For Chester Allen, Arthur knew the work that must be done with a sense of duty and integrity. And he took his oath of office back in 1881. And our 21st president was he.
Grover Cleveland was the president in 1884. He accomplished something no one ever did before. He served 1 term in office, then retired, it is true. Then returned to serve another term in 1892. Born in 1837, he was brilliant, he was kind.
Remember Grover Cleveland from New Jersey State. Remember Grover Cleveland, his work was great. That the people all respected him, your history books can tell. Our 22nd president and 24th as well.
Cleveland was the mayor of Buffalo in 1881 and the governor of New York State before his work was done. He was glad to help his government, and he did even more, for he served a term as president in 1884. And when he was in office, he was famous near and far. He suppressed an insurrection that broke out in Panama. Then, when his first term was over, he had other work to do. He returned again as president in 1892. That the people all respected him, your history books can tell. Our 22nd president and 24th as well.
In 1833, you know, in the town of North Bend, Ohio, there was born a man of fame. Benjamin Harrison was his name.
His grandpa was 9th president, a man of great accomplishment. And here's another fact that's true: Benjamin was a president too.
A general in the Civil War, he then became a senator, then won his place in history as president number 23.
While president, his work was grand. We gained 5 states in our great land.
Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota.
Remember 1881 when you think of Benjamin Harrison,
For on that date he became, you see,
president number 23.
Back in 1843, in Ohio State, you see, a hero named McKinley saw the light of day.
Bill McKinley was a man who knew how to dream and plan.
He spent his life in working for the USA, spent 20 years in Congress for his native state.
He acquired such respect, he was president-elect.
And 1897 was that famous date. William McKinley for America did strive, and he became our president 25. When the country known as Spain sank our battleship, the Maine, President McKinley went to fight once more. And our victory was great back in 1898. And the treaty signed in Paris marked the end of war. But the war gave us a prize. That is why our flag now flies over Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. And in that same year, it's true, we annexed Hawaii, too. And President McKinley proved what freedom means. But on September 6th, 1901, President McKinley made the supreme sacrifice. His life was ended by an assassin's bullet. Still, his name will live forever because of his service to his country. William McKinley for America did strive, and he became our president 25.
Here's a song about a man our country found so handy. Theodore Roosevelt was his name, a Yankee Doodle dandy. He was born in New York town in 1858. He grew up to win renown, his courage was so great.
Walks on,
But carry a great big stick.
said Mr. Teddy Roosevelt.
President number 26 was Mr. Teddy Roosevelt.
In 1898, he won fame forevermore when he led the charge at San Juan Hill in the Spanish-American War. He served as our vice president in 1901. Took over when McKinley died. He knew what must be done. Walks on,
But carry a great big stick.
said Mr. Teddy Roosevelt.
President number 26 was Mr. Teddy Roosevelt. He made a pact with Panama that really was terrific. We built the Panama Canal from Atlantic to Pacific.
Teddy Roosevelt did his work so well that they praised him to the skies. And in 1905, they awarded him the Nobel Peace Prize.
Walks on,
But carry a great big stick.
said Mr. Teddy Roosevelt.
President number 26 was Mr. Teddy Roosevelt.
On an 1857 morn,
William Howard Taft was born.
from a little town in Ohio,
To a job in the White House he did go.
William Howard Taft knew what hard work meant, a 27th president,
In the Philippines he was governor.
and Roosevelt Secretary of War.
Now remember 1908.
Taft became president on this date.
In 1921.
Taft believed that his work was done.
But our country needed men of his sort.
He became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. William Howard Taft knew what hard work meant. Our 27th president. In the state that we know as Virginia, 1856 was the day there was born President Woodrow Wilson, with a heart and a courage so great.
He was known far and wide as a scholar, and as president of Princeton College taught. Then he elected as governor of New Jersey. For the people knew what he could do.
Woodrow Wilson was President 28.
1912 was the year Woodrow Wilson became president of the USA. It was during his next term of office that the great time of strife came our way.
In 1916, the Germans torpedoed our ships, the Lusitania and the Sussex. In spite of warnings, submarine warfare continued, and in April of 1917, we declared war on Germany.
With the leadership of Woodrow Wilson, we came through World War I to victory. He helped form the first League of Nations through his great love of humanity.
Now it's true that the League was unsuccessful, but remember it pointed the way for our wonderful United Nations. That's the hope of our world peace today. Woodrow Wilson rose to great estate. Woodrow Wilson was President 28. The state of Ohio in 1865 was the birthplace of Warren G. Harding. He was lieutenant governor of Ohio State, elected in 1904. Before that, he worked as a teacher in school, as well as a news editor. The 29th president of our USA.
His knowledge was great and his brain was so keen. He gave all his best to the nation.
He was handsome and tall with a genial smile, and of friends he always had plenty. And Harding was made 29th president in the year of 1920. President Calvin Coolidge was a Yankee through and through, born on the 4th of July in 1872.
Calvin learned to be a farmer, yes, he learned to work and strive. Then he graduated Amherst back in 1895. In the year of 1912, he became state senator, and in 1919, he became the governor.
It was Coolidge Calvin Coolidge, our 30th president. In the year of 1920, his fame was nationwide when he served as our vice president and stood at Harding's side.
On the death of Warren Harding back in 1923, Coolidge was the 30th man to assume the presidency.
The date, August 3rd, 1923. The time, 2:47 in the small hours of the morning in a little Vermont farmhouse. In the very room in which he was born, Calvin Coolidge took his oath of office as President of the United States. The oath of office was administered by his aged father.
It was Coolidge, Calvin Coolidge, our 30th president.
Herbert Hoover was an engineer. We'll sing a song about his career. Born in the year of 1874, his path led straight to the White House door. He worked his way through college and he made it pay. Worked his way, Herbert Hoover, because he knew there was a job to be done. Then one day, Herbert Hoover was our president, 31.
In working for humanity, he made his name. No wonder folk in Europe sang of Hoover's fame. The people in the USA thought Hoover was great.
He became our president in 1928. Worked his way, Herbert Hoover, because he knew there was a job to be done. Then one day, Herbert Hoover was our president, 31. On January 30th in 1882 in Hyde Park, New York State,
Franklin Delano Roosevelt was born.
He was destined to be great.
His record of service to the land, he loved makes Americans feel so proud.
No force on earth could make him pale as he stood with his head unbowed. FDR
Stand for Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
FDR
Knew what freedom meant in a voice loud and clear.
We have nothing to fear but fear itself, said our 32nd president. In the year of 1913, Franklin Roosevelt took command as Assistant Secretary of the Navy of our land. And all through the years of World War I, he stood by his job till the job was done. He was stricken with an illness. They said he'd never walk again, but he passed them all as he walked the road towards freedom for all men. He fought his way back to health in 1928. They elected him the governor of New York State. Came 1932, and our country was filled with fright. We were in a Great Depression with no relief in sight. We needed a man of action with strength of heart and hand, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt became the president of the land. FDR
Stand for Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
FDR
Knew what freedom meant.
He was leader of our country through the years of World War II and planned for victory. Our United Nations was born of his love of humanity. In the small town of Warm Springs, Georgia, Roosevelt's life came to an end. In 1945, the whole world had lost a friend. but his heart shall still survive, and the man is loved and known, both near and far, by the simple letters F.D.R. When their son was born to them in 1884, Harry Truman's parents never knew what was in store. With a heart great and human, Harry S. Truman's, one day he would be President 33. Then went to the Senate back in 1934. He served as Vice President when FDR was White House resident. And when Roosevelt passed on, Harry Truman carried on.
Ran again for office in 1948, re-elected president to guide our ship of state.
When the votes were collected, he was re-elected as the president of the USA. On June 25th, in the year of 1950, President Truman gave the order for our armed forces to assist the South Korean Republic in its struggle against the brutal aggressor. In doing this, he gave evidence that the United States stood firmly as a member of the United Nations and would fight at the side of all free nations to preserve the dignity of mankind.
The 14th of October in the year of 1890 is where our story had begun. The hero of the hour, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, was born in the Texas town of Denison, Dwight D. Eisenhower, as bright as freedom's flame, led the way in peace as well as war. And because he fought for freedom, he won greater fame as President number 34. When Eisenhower was 21 in the year 1911, he moved from Kansas to a different scene. He prepared to serve his nation with a West Point education. He graduated in 1915. His devotion to his duty soon brought Ike a great promotion and led the way for our great victory. To Europe he did go as the chief of ETO. That was in the year of 1943. In the year of 1945, on the 7th day of May, the bitter war with Germany was won. For Dwight D. Eisenhower, the hero of the hour, a brand new life had just begun. Dwight D. Eisenhower, as bright as freedom's flame, led the way in peace as well as war. And because he fought for freedom, he won greater fame as President number 34.
John F. Kennedy, a remarkable young man is he. At age 43, elected to the presidency. He was born in 1917, the second child of 9. In the state of Massachusetts, in the city of Brookline. His granddad was a mayor, his dad ambassador. He graduated Harvard, then gave service in the war. John F. Kennedy, a remarkable young man is he. At age 43, elected to the presidency. As commander of a PT boat, he got the Purple Heart. He was a combat hero and he bravely did his part. He served his country proudly, and when the war was won, the hero of the Solomons went on to Washington. John F. Kennedy, a remarkable young man is he. At age 43, elected to the presidency. Then for 3 terms he served the House of Representatives. And after that as senator he gave all he could give. As senator this Democrat worked harder and did strive till he became the president number 35. John F. Kennedy,
a remarkable young man is he. At age 43, elected to the presidency.